שלא ייגמר לעולם. החול והים, רשרוש של המים, בירק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, בירק השמיים, תפילת האדם. I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
How can this be? He was just right here. I say so literally. 3 weeks ago, our beloved teacher, friend, colleague, leader, and light, Rabbi Aaron David Panken, was sitting right here, right at the front of this bima, helping to celebrate Westchester Reform Temple's 65th anniversary in a brilliant and illuminating conversation about the future of Reform Judaism. He was, of course, wise, warm, witty. He said it felt strange not to be talking about Jonah. Aaron always had the right words. Now there are no words, only fathomless grief. So let us do what our friend would do. Let us open the Babylonian Talmud. Because the Talmud has words. And there it is written in Tractate Horayot 13a, a Torah scholar is greater than even the king of Israel. For when a king of Israel dies, any Jew is fit for royalty. But when a sage dies, we have no one like him. And there it is written in Tractate Shabbat 105b, Hacham Shemet Hakol Krovav. When a sage dies, all are his family. My friends, if you remember nothing else from this ritual of remembrance, remember this: grief is always reflected love. Our sorrow is monumental because our love for Aaron is monumental. And the love we share today will provide boundless support for Lisa, Eli, and Samantha, for Aaron's parents, Beverly and Peter, for his sister, Melinda, and for the entire Panken Messenger family. We know that You, especially Lisa, Eli, Sam, have time and again had to share Aaron with the world, and today is no exception. And so it is important for you to know that this family, this WRT family, this HUCJIR family, this Jewish people family, this human family will be with you as you mourn. Every person in this room, every friend, every rabbi and cantor and teacher, every Jewish leader now understands that we will dedicate our lives to teaching Torah and serving our people and humankind in Aaron's name, so that his love of Torah, God, Judaism, and humankind will reach new homes and new hearts and will continue to shape the world for good as it did when he lived. I am grateful for the friendship and partnership of Aaron's sister-in-law, Rabbi Sarah Messenger, who will lead our memorial today.
Let's just say, Aaron never wanted me to speak about him. I made him very nervous. He would say, "Messenger, don't do it." And there are words that I'm not allowed to say about all of this. And yet, so many of us are thinking the same words. It says in our tradition, "Kanei lecha rav, oseh lecha chaver." Acquire for yourself a rabbi, and there's so many rabbis here, and oseh lecha rav, oseh lecha chaver. Make yourself a friend. There are many of you that could speak about Aaron and to his accomplishments. We just plucked 3, and they are both his Rav and his Chaver. After reading, I will then introduce the speakers, and our speakers for this afternoon are Rabbi Larry Hoffman, Rabbi David Stern, Rabbi Rick Jacobs, Peter Panken, speaking also for Beverly, Melinda, his sister, Rabbi Melinda Panken, but I believe she's talking like Melinda, the sister, and then I'll be saying a few words of my own. Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. Rabbi Larry Hoffman.
I used to tell Aaron all the time that he was born to be the president of the Hebrew Union College, that he was a president waiting to happen, because in fact he had everything. He thought he majored in engineering and rabbinics, but he didn't. Actually, all his life, he had a double major. He majored first in vision, competence, and intellect. And secondly, at the same time and equally, plain goodness and sweetness. And he was driven. Already as a student, he stood out as thoughtful, modest, and independent. He dissected problems as if they were engineering challenges with parts that only he could reassemble better. And he wrote a thesis on Hanukkah. And for his doctorate, he chose Talmud. Now, many of us know how crazy that was, given Aaron's Reform Jewish pedigree and Talmud not being the usual fare of Reform Sunday schools. Talmuds start as kids, don't they? They're raised on it. It's the most daunting literature imaginable, but, Aaron was never daunted about anything. So he became a Talmudist, and he never stopped studying. In his pre-presidential days as a faculty member, I would regularly drop by his office down the hall to have lunch with him, and if he wasn't talking to students, he was inevitably reading a page of Talmud. Talmud appealed to him because of his engineering logic, I think, but he saw a lot more in it than that. Here's what he really saw. He was on a lifelong pursuit of what I can only call the real thing. He sailed, he piloted, he hiked New Zealand's most treacherous trails to get deep into nature. So he Talmuded to get deep into Judaism. But Aaron studied Talmud not for its halakha, but for its wisdom. And citing that wisdom was his hallmark. As our president, he spoke in public all the time, but never, to the best of my knowledge, never without citing a text. Scholars, professors are inherently critical, especially of administrators in authority. So the highest compliment to Aaron may be our faculty's universal conviction that whenever we heard him, he would do us proud. And not only because he spoke from the heart of Jewish tradition, but because he spoke from the heart. Aaron loved. He so loved his students. Look how many have come from all over the country. He cherished board members who were his friends. Were you sick and needing help? He would phone from halfway across the world to offer it to you. Happy are you, O Israel, that God loves you, said Rabbi Akiba. Happier still are you because you know it. With Aaron, we knew it. And he was unfailingly respectful. Aaron knew his own mind and made difficult decisions, as a president has to. Sometimes we disagreed with them, and we told him so. But he was never self-seeking. He was unfailingly honest with us. He took the high ground. And here's the thing, even in private, I never heard him speak squalidly of anyone. He single-mindedly sought something higher, a grand vision of Reform Judaism transformed. He himself wrote an essay on good leaders, describing them as competent, confident, his words, quiet and self-effacing guides who make demanding and inspirational achievement possible. That was Aaron. They must also stand by their commitment, he said. That was Aaron, too. And being Aaron, he had texts for it. Psalm 15, one who lives without blame, who does what is right, who acknowledges truth and whose tongue is not given to evil. Such a one shall never be shaken. That was Aaron. Aaron sought excellence, only excellence. He cringed at mediocrity. Personally, he kept his thinking sharp, by the way, by attending annual meetings of the North American Academy of Liturgy, of all things. Not because he was a liturgist, though he could have been, but because he missed intellectual outlets, and a high-level interfaith study group there specialized in cutting-edge intellectual currents of the day. I have notes from the last 2 days from Christian scholars all over the country, remembering Aaron for his generosity of spirit and his contribution to intellectual excellence. Especially at the college, he sought excellence. His logic was impeccable. The world needs Reform Judaism. Reform Judaism needs a movement. A movement needs a college. The key to it all, the source for clergy, the center for thinking, for re-engineering Jewish existence, and on and on and on. So he set his sights on doing it right, not succumbing to the self-satisfied bureaucratic sclerosis that institutions too often settle for. Not Aaron. The tragedy is, he was just hitting his stride, just putting the puzzle together when he was taken from us. In his abundant energy and cheerfulness, it was easy to miss how heavily the whole thing weighed on him, far more than he let on, and how hard he worked morning, noon, and night. If we lay him to rest today, it will be the first time that he has fully rested altogether. Lisa, you were his silent partner at the college. You can testify better than most how much the college consumed him daily, how much it was his life. It is not too much to say that you loaned him to us all these years, and you loaned a part of yourself as well. And we are grateful. The day before he died, Aaron was planning his ordination address with naturally a Talmudic text. In this case, a familiar one, a version of which appears above many synagogue arcs, Da lifnei mi ata omed, know before whom you stand. Aaron is going to remind the ordinees that they would always be standing before God, but standing, he was going to add, implies actually taking a stand, and he was going to tell them that they had to take stands on what mattered. They had to commit themselves to a better world. This was the last sermon he would plan, the one he would never finish and never give. So Aaron, dear Aaron, on behalf of this college whom you adored, we will complete the sermon for you. And we will give it to ourselves, to all of us here, not just to ordinees. We'll add a text, however, that you in all your modesty passed over, one that will certainly be cited many times here, Avot 1:12, be among the disciples of Aaron. Aaron, we will remember lifnei mei anu omdim, before whom we stand, but also, looking back at you, we will remember miyamad, who it was who was doing the standing, who it was who charged us to go deeply into Torah, to see the college as the center of the Reformed Jewish project, and to re-engineer that project with such integrity, wholeheartedness, and vision. You were with us all too briefly, but you remain our rabbi, even in death. And we, your disciples, vow that you will not have worked and dreamed in vain.
Thank you. There's a wonderful passage from a psalm. Teach us to number our days so that we may attain a heart of wisdom. And may your favor, O God, be upon us, establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. David Stern, you're up. Do you need this thing?
I had been meaning to ask Aaron a Talmud question this week. I liked asking Aaron Talmud questions. Usually when I was preparing to say something about the Talmud in front of a bunch of rabbis, I wanted to make sure my reading was within reason. Here is the question I was going to ask him this week in preparation for Los Angeles ordination. In Talmud Tractate Tamid 28a, the text says of the priest chosen to remove the ashes from the altar, Velo ner biyado. There was no lamp in his hand. Explanations for the ruling vary. One opinion maintains that the priest did not need to hold a lamp because he could walk by the light of the flames on the altar. Another suggests that it was all about keeping the priest's hands free and unencumbered for the service to be performed. I wanted to ask Aaron if I could say that it's a value for rabbis to show up empty-handed, not so full of ourselves or crammed so full of qualifications that we forget to remain open to the service before us. And now I can't ask him. And now we can't ask him. Our questions could be about anything, ancient texts or what we might learn from the Parkland students he visited, a challenge the college faces, or a movement-wide issue that would summon his razor-sharp sense of strategic vision. Or just an invitation to explain the latest technological gadget that left us stymied, but he actually knew how to use and probably knew how to take apart and put together again. I can't ask him my question now, but I can cite him as my answer, because Aaron Panken showed up empty-handed every day. Not as an ungracious guest would. In fact, the flowers from his last visit to our home a week ago are still on the kitchen table. But empty-handed as in open-handed and open-hearted to the people in the world around him. He was curious about anything and everything, from some nerdy electronics convention to a bit of Aramaic grammar to opera, which he actually got Lisa to go to for one whole season once. He was curious about you and me, which is why his asking after us or our families never came off as a conditioned rabbinic reflex, but as the genuine caring it was. It's what made him a great camp counselor from the beginning and a great friend every day. His world could be only the person in front of him, or it could be, well, the world. Aaron and Lisa and their family have traveled the globe with the best of wanderlust, this powerful appetite to see more and know more and experience more, from Panama to Europe to New Zealand to Australia, to name just a few, and on every conveyance imaginable, and learning every step of the way. Even on the most mundane, schleppedic days, he was always imagining the next adventure. He was empty-handed because he somehow managed to be a person of strong principle but minimal preconception. He was remarkably willing to take new questions seriously rather than fall into clenched patterns of resistance. He was fun to disagree with because he was smart and stubborn, but practical and never closed off. He approached hard decisions with creativity and courage. He would stick to principle, but never get stuck on himself. He was empty-handed because he was at home not only in the scholar's study, but in the sky and on the sea and in the raucous embrace of his family and before a Manhattan sunset and a Berkshire dawn and in the fullness of God's world. Aaron was a rabbi through and through, but as Larry has already said, he was an electrical engineer by training, and you knew it without ever seeing his CV. I remember when I once made the mistake of asking Aaron how all his increased travel was going, all the packing and unpacking, at which point he ushered me into the bathroom on Stonewall Lane to proudly display the handheld steamer, which he used to steam the wrinkles out of his suits as soon as he got home so they could be ready for the next day. A demonstration which, of course, included a full scientific disquisition on the machine, the fabric, and their wondrous interaction. Aaron Panken got excited about steam. He was warm and delightful and fun and an engineer. So as a strategist, he was sober and unsentimental. And as a scholar, he valued precision over polemic. Just recently, at the anniversary that Jonathan mentioned, a few of us were ribbing Aaron on this very bema about the fact that his less than scintillating book, The Rhetoric of Innovation, had surged almost into triple digits in sales since its publication 13 years ago. But I am willing to bet that his is one of the few studies of Talmudic literature that actually uses bar graphs, 10 different bar graphs to be precise, to make its argument about change in Jewish law. Only a Johns Hopkins engineering major could be that kind of rabbi. That sobriety was an important quality in his leadership. He never jumped on a bandwagon or went in for inexact rhetorical flourishes. And that is what made his emerging public moral voice, especially over recent months, so powerful. He had just begun to speak out against the perils of this political culture, just begun to show us how to bring the authentic and complex voice of our tradition to bear on the toxicities of our own day. One of the many reasons that we feel so cheated today is that he had only begun to lead us. He had a keen intellect, a boundless heart, an anchoring integrity, a great sense of play, and a wicked sense of humor. In my sermon at this year's CCR convention, I focused on the metaphor of the rabbi as an earthen altar, partaking of the holy and the human. Infatuated with my own imagery, I saw Aaron in the hallway after the service, and I could see the Panken twinkle of mischief in his eye, and then the shoulder shake that precedes the Panken belly laugh. That's when he asked me the pragmatic engineer's four-word question that ruined my metaphor of the earthen altar forever. What if it rains? But the most remarkable byproduct of the Hopkins engineer turned HUC graduate is that Aaron Panken was that rarest of breeds, a rabbi who could fix stuff. My parents, Aleichem HaShalom, always adored Aaron. From the time that he was my father's intern here at WRT to the marriage to our beloved Lisa that brought Aaron fully into the Scarsdale fold, Aaron was not only an honorary Stern child, but frankly, the favorite Stern child. When my parents retired to the Berkshires, Aaron and Lisa would always visit when they would come up for the weekend, and would come up for less time than that if my parents even faintly suggested that they would love to see them. And pretty much without fail, when the charming young couple showed up at the door, they were greeted with a warm embrace and a punch list. Aaron, while you're here, could you look at the printer? I'm not sure why the TV isn't working. Does that air conditioner vent look funny to you? And the huge Panken heart and the admirable Panken patience and the considerable Panken skill set would make it all work. For all of his constant achievements and well-earned stature and overcrowded calendar, Aaron never stopped being a rabbi to our family. He brought great comfort to us when my mother was dying, and afterwards those visits to the Berkshires became even more precious when my dad was in the house alone. Visits from Aaron sustained him, as they had when my mother was in the hospital, as they did when my father was in the hospital, as they did every time Aaron Panken made Jack Stern laugh, or made him think, or made him proud. Aaron Panken was a rabbi who could put things together, like printer cables, like broken hearts. He may have started out empty-handed, but he held all of us. He was a mensch beyond measure. I know the tragic circumstances of Aaron's death might make us reticent to speak of his passions, but that would not be fair to him. He loved sailing, and he loved flying. He had a thing for the sky. He had a thing for the compass of the stars. He had a thing for the water and the wind. The Messenger's Berkshire home on the lake and the cottage my family rents are literally a 5-minute drive from each other, and about 20 minutes by sailboat or kayak. I cannot recall a single time that Aaron drove. I really believe he was most at home in the sky and on the water. They were his poetry. the places where his intellect and his sense of wonder could dance. He has fallen from a Sabbath sky, and our hearts are broken. But how he loved a Sabbath sky. To Aaron's parents, to Melinda and her family, to Lisa and Eli and Samantha, our hearts go out to you. And if a bunch of broken hearts together can make something whole, we're here to try. Aaron Panken lived in a remarkably wide world, and you were always at its center. We loved him, and we love you. And on behalf of the family of rabbis we call the CCAR, I will simply quote our colleague Michael White, who wrote of his dear friend Aaron, "He was the best of us." 2,000 Reform rabbis agree upon very little. But that one is a winner. Smart, kind, caring, compassionate, learned in Torah, committed to the Jewish people to the fiber of his being, serious in his vision and joyous in his days. He was the best of us. Velo ner biyado, like a priest without a lamp, even as we stumble in this valley of shadow, we walk by other lights. May Aaron's example guide our way. May his soul shine like the splendor of the heavens. May we know God's comfort. These are dark days. But if Aaron taught us anything, he taught us how to sail by a night sky. Good night, sweet prince. And flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. Aaron D. Panken, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of the righteous abide for blessing. Amen.
It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream to be and oh to lose. A thing for fools this, a holy thing, a thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death can touch. Rick, you're up.
Yes.
I first met Aaron Panken at HUC JAR on the 5th floor in the 1980s. I interviewed him to be my rabbinic intern at the Brooklyn Heights Synagogue. Based on his resume, I tried to figure out who is this guy? A degree in electrical engineering from Johns Hopkins, really? I mean, if I was looking for someone to run the AV at the synagogue, he'd be the guy. But I also noticed that he played guitar, had been a nifty advisor, and so much more. This guy was either a complete misfit, or he was one extraordinarily multifaceted gem of a human being. In 5 minutes, I knew I was in the presence of a brilliant and immensely personal, warm future leader of the Jewish people. A little bit youthful in the appearance. Think Eli today. And when I learned that Rabbi Jack Stern had just interviewed him to be the rabbinic intern of WRT, I knew there was no chance he was going to come work for us. And as a former WRT intern myself, I told him, "You'd be crazy not to work with Jack Stern." I knew at that moment that if I was really lucky, I mean really lucky, one day maybe I might get to work closely with this remarkable human being. The Torah teaches that V'nasa Aharon et shemot b'nei Yisrael b'choshen hamishpat al libo. Aaron shall carry the names of the children of Israel on the breastpiece of decision over his heart. Midrash Tanchuma elaborates, when Aaron had to make a decision regarding a fellow Israelite, he was to consult not only the rule book, but his heart as well. Rabbi Aaron Panken was cut from the same cloth as our ancestor. The depth of his heart matched, if not exceeded, the breadth of his brilliant mind. In the past few years, Rabbi Panken has not only recruited, taught, mentored, ordained, and graduated a new generation of Jewish leaders, but more significantly, he has modeled for each of them how to live a Jewish life of depth and integrity, embodying instead of merely espousing our Torah's timeless teachings. Greatness and goodness flowed forth from this remarkable man. I was blessed to have Aaron as a close friend, and until 6 years ago, to be the rabbi of his family's congregation. It was on this bima that Aaron dazzled WRT with his incisive and provocative readings of our sacred text, especially the book of Jonah, which he would somehow find something new to talk about each and every Yom Kippur. He did say to me, "Rick, there are the books." It was here that Eli and Samantha lovingly received Torah from their parents and grandparents. And at Eisner Camp and on our URJ EIE Heller High semester in Israel, they deepened their own unique journeys. Before I had the chance to work with Aaron, I had the supreme blessing to work closely with his amazing wife, Lisa, during her president of this great congregation. Lisa, by the way, was very timid in those days. And I don't take credit for a lot of things, but I just want you to know that I think I was moderately successful in bringing her out of her shell, for which Aaron always thanked me. Fast forward. I was invited to lead the URJ, and in 2014, Aaron became the president of HUC JIR. What a blessing. What an unbelievable blessing to work so closely with Aaron. There was only one other time when the union and the college were more closely aligned, and that was at the beginning, when Isaac Mayer Wise held both positions simultaneously. Aaron Panken didn't enter our reform movement through the front door, no. And there are a lot of others, as Aaron would remind us, that need us to go out and find them in the world and bring them in because they didn't start out inside. And it was 3 weeks ago at our Scheitz seminar in Atlanta, Aaron shared with 87 incoming congregational presents how he came to Reform Judaism. He shared, and I'll quote his words, I wrote them down. "It all began when I was in 5th grade. Inexplicably, one afternoon as I walked home from school in Manhattan, I entered the Lincoln Square Synagogue, an Orthodox congregation on Amsterdam Avenue. I'd like to go to religious school, I told the receptionist. The next thing I knew, says Aaron, the cantor appeared and asked, how can I help you? I'd love to go to religious school, Aaron replied. Well, that's lovely. He said, could I talk to your parents about that? Sitting him down later that day, his parents, Peter and Beverly, said, Aaron, we'd prefer that you go to a place where what they teach is a little closer to what we believe. And so, starting at age 11, Aaron attended religious school at New York Stephen Wise Free Synagogue. For other people, he would have a lot to catch up with, but don't worry, Aaron just dove in. Rabbi Sally Prezan, our movement's first woman rabbi, officiated at his bar mitzvah, and the rest is, as they say, history. Thank God we didn't have our specialty camps back then, because Aaron would have been a standout at 6 Point Psi Tech. But his bride-to-be would have been a standout at 6 Point Sports. So thank God we didn't have those two separate camps, and that they both went to the same camp, Eisner Camp in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, where they found each other. Aaron knew from his experience and his vision that Reform Judaism is truly a movement, not merely a collection of organizations, and his leadership covered every single part of it. You could have dropped Aaron into any role anywhere in our movement: camp, campus, youth group, pulpit, scholarly seminar, social justice rally, Israel, chaplaincy, you name it, he possessed all of God's leadership gifts. But the two he had in the greatest abundance were humility and kindness. Aaron didn't just write about justice. Lots of people do that. In March of 2015, at the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, a watershed moment in the civil rights movement, Rabbi Panken spoke in Selma, Alabama, in front of 400 activists, including the Reverend William Barber, Dr. Susanna Heschel, Peter Yarrow, and a whole group of other leaders in the battle for equality. And Aaron said, and I will quote his words, "We remember the period's frightening moments when unabashed hatred battered the good and robbed people of life and opportunity, when authorities who looked for leadership, morality, and fairness used their immense influence for evil and not for good, and when the powerless suffered mightily at the hand of those who held them down." And Aaron's love of Israel was full-throated and constant. The new Toby Family Campus at HUC in Jerusalem represents his deep commitment to expanding and intensifying the place of Israel in our movement. And when 16-year-old Shira Banki was murdered during the Jerusalem Pride March 3 years ago, Aaron reached out to the Banki family and, in partnership with the U.S. Embassy, created a program that brings together teachers and their young children to learn about the different groups that are trying to inhabit Jerusalem together. These educators, who are Jews and Arabs, Christians and Muslims, religious and secular, have to face the fear of the other, stereotypes, and yes, even the hatred. Aaron knew it was not enough to hope for peace. This past November, during the HUC-JAR Board of Governors meeting in Jerusalem, Aaron ordained the 100th Israeli Reform rabbi, signaling the transformative impact the College Institute has had in shaping a more inclusive and pluralistic Israel. Aaron has modeled sacred partnership with the College Institute's lay leadership, so many of whom are here today. And especially, I would just note the unique and inspiring relationship he had with HUC-JR's board chair, Andy Berger. Andy and Aaron were always in sync, always deeply respectful of each other. And if you think Aaron was only gentle and mild-mannered, you should have seen him assertively carrying a large Sefer Torah past the security guards as we entered the Kotel Plaza to finish our celebratory prayer service in honor of the 4 newest Israeli ordinees. Not only did Aaron proudly carry the Torah that day and every day, he plumbed its deepest layers and lived its most demanding imperatives. Our tradition commands us V'ha'amidu talmidim harbe. Raise up many disciples. Many attempt, and some succeed. But only a few, including Rabbi Aaron Panken, have their disciples spread out across the globe. Pirkei doesn't only want many disciples, it specifies which kind. It says, be disciples of Aaron. And how do Aaron's disciples conduct themselves? Do they only sit in the academy studying all day and night? Ve'hevei mitalmidav shel Aharon ohev shalom v'rodef shalom, ohevet habriot u'mekarvan l'Torah. No, the disciples of Aaron spend their days loving peace and pursuing peace, loving their fellow creatures and bringing them all close to Torah. Today, this sanctuary and our movement overflow with the many disciples of Rabbi Dr. Aaron Panken, especially Aaron's beloved sister, Rabbi Melinda Panken. The biblical Aaron and our Aaron inspire us to bring many others to the deep water, not the shallow water. You can start, Aaron always said, in the shallow water, but make sure everyone knows that the Torah and our tradition has deep water. And having had that experience of the great depths, from there we will find strength and inspiration to pursue peace and love all of God's children, not just the ones who are just like us. Indeed, that was Rabbi Aaron Panken's way. May we all be disciples of our Aaron. May we never stop teaching and living his Torah. In the Talmud, there are some sages who are simply irreplaceable. Chaval al de'avdin v'la mishtatchin. Woe to those who are lost and cannot be replaced. Today we are the ones who are lost, and Rabbi Aaron Panken is the one who can never, ever be replaced.
Friends, in just a moment, we will offer a beloved melody, beloved to so many, the college community, the Westchester Reform Temple community, the Reform movement, and beyond. And so it is our wish that you join with us, becoming a congregational choir with deep breath and full hearts, lending all that is within you to fill the air in this room as we pray the words of the 122nd Psalm, as we yearn and desire for shalva, tranquility, together.
Samachti be'omrim li, bet Adonai nerech, omdot hayu rabbeinu, bisharayich Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim habnuya, keir shechubra layachtav, sheshamanu shivtei ha'edut leYisrael, lehodot leshem Adonai. Samachti be'omrim li, beit Adonai nelech, omdot hayu raglech. שלום ירושלים, ישליו חיים, ישלמו בחן, שלווה בארמנותייך, למען החי ורעי, אדם ברונו שלום, למען בית אדוני אלוהינו, אהבת שעה טוב לך. למען בית אדוני אלוהינו, אהבת שעה טוב לך.
The last stanza of the Adon Olam. V'ya'ado avchid ruchi v'eti shan v'ha'ira v'im ruchi gviati Adonai li v'lo ira. Into your hands, O God, and into Joan's arms and Grandma Bell's arms is Aaron's soul. And therefore, we are not afraid. Rabbi Melinda Panken, who I think belonged to me before even Aaron did, and Aaron's dad, Peter Panken.
Aaron's mother, my wife Beverly, and I had the extreme pleasure of watching Aaron grow up to be the extraordinary person you have heard about so far today. We pictured him as a child with arms outstretched, greeting the world, eager to embrace new knowledge, new skills, and new friendships. Even as a child, his warmth, inquisitiveness, and good humor always characterized his personality. His passion for Judaism began in nursery school and religious school at Stephen Wise Free Synagogue, where Sally Priceand was the rabbi, and she is here with us today. Thank you, Sally. It was there that he became bar mitzvah and was confirmed. One of the greatest influences in his life, and I say this to all the rabbis, was becoming a leader in the Federation of Temple Youth during his teen years, the teen years when children stopped talking to us for about 5 years. Upon graduating college with a degree in electrical engineering and a minor in biomedical engineering, he dealt a great deal with the nervous system of rats for several years. He asked himself, what do I want to do during the rest of my life? And he answered, I want a vocation which requires lifelong learning. I want to spend my time helping other people. I want to teach and to mentor other people. And Aaron wanted to be a force for good in the world, a community leader. He said, what about medical school? I'd be helping people. I could go and teach in a medical college. He thought of getting a PhD in engineering and then teaching in college and lifelong learning that way. But he decided that the things he wanted to do, and he always was a doer, were at the heart of the rabbi's profession. So he enrolled in HUC, and as Rick said, the rest is history, and that is why we are all here today. Aaron loved exploring the world and traveled extensively for pleasure and business. He called my wife and I almost every day. He called from China, he called from Sao Paulo, he called from Rio de Janeiro, Australia, New Zealand, Turkey, and any one of the 50 states that he visited during his lifetime, and of course from Israel and even from the West Bank. Aaron, we will miss your calls, and we will miss you, our son.
To all of us, Aaron was a mentor, a teacher, a scholar, a rabbi, and a friend. But I was especially blessed because I got to call him my brother. Over the past blurry days, I have thought so much about my memories of Aaron, and there is one overarching theme that emerges about our childhood and growing up together. Aaron and I grew up laughing. At dinner every night, the two of us had a particular game we would play. I felt triumphant the day I was able to make cream of wheat come out of his nose. And then he got me back by making borscht come out of mine, which both scared my mother and is quite unpleasant because of the sour cream. Most nights, it was my mother who would run to the kitchen to spit out whatever she was trying to swallow because the two of us were just so ridiculous. And after C-sections and extensive abdominal surgery, I often had to tell Aaron to get out of my hospital room because he would stand there cracking jokes and making me laugh, which was his coping mechanism, but it was terribly excruciating. My memories of my brother are so very sweet. He was the one who shared the back seat of the car with me on vacations to Martha's Vineyard, Disneyland, and a dude ranch somewhere in Texas. He was the one who walked me to elementary school every day and pushed away a boy who was teasing me. He is the one who taught me how to play that game where you hold your hands up and you try to get out of the way when someone's smacking you. And I always lost because he was much faster. And I even have the sweet memory of how he convinced me that running a volt of a 9-volt battery with alligator clips through my braces was a good idea. But it just shows you that I loved my big brother so much that I would do anything he told me to do. When we went to Green Family Camp together for the summer, we drove down and we stopped by the highway in every single state to pose by the picture that said, "Welcome to Mississippi, welcome to Louisiana." And this trip fostered in both of us a desire to visit all 50 states and a competition to visit all 50, which I won. Aaron could even find humor in the most mundane tasks. When you have a name like Panken, you have to spell it on the phone, and Aaron would come up with the most complicated way to sound it out. It's P as in pterodactyl. And K as in knee. And we would spend hours coming up with the most ridiculous words to spell our name. I will miss his Donald Duck voice and the way that my children, Ariella and Micah, adored him and loved to play with him. I will miss how he was with animals. He was both a cat and a guinea pig whisperer in a weird way. I will especially miss his seders, the 25 kinds of haroset from around the world, reading all the Aramaic in the Haggadah, which I'm sort of angry, I feel like I have to take that on now, shaking the table to make it seem like Elijah was lapping from the cup when the door was opened, and the bellowing of my grandfather's old Ashkenazic songs while pounding on the table. I will miss so much. My heart aches for my parents, who have lost a son who was so incredibly dedicated and present. He was always a source of pride, inspiration, and advice for them. He loved them, spent time with them often, and would drop everything to be there when he needed them. And then there was his deep and unconditional love for his best friend, Lisa, and his wonderful children, Eli and Samantha. His love for you was unending. And all of his sisters and brothers-in-law and nieces and nephews, you got to experience Aaron's laughter. For many years, my parents took us on vacation to Martha's Vineyard. On one particular trip, Aaron was 8 and I was 4, and he was outside riding his bike. My parents went out to check on him, and he was gone. There was an airstrip across the place from where we were staying, and it was there that they found Aaron waving to them from a plane with a stranger taxiing on the runway. That was my big brother Aaron, flying and off on adventures from his earliest days. When I told him about meeting Glenn and that I had found a man who was a flight instructor to date, Aaron responded, "Now that's the kind of brother-in-law I want." And so I married him. My big brother Aaron was taken too soon with too much left undone for our family and for the Jewish people. My 8-year-old wise son said it best the other night when we first heard. He said, "Mom, your job is to finish Uncle Aaron's work and do what was important to him." And really, that is what Aaron would want, for us to continue to bring his vision to life and to ensure that the reform movement as a whole continues to change the world. Yesterday, I received a loving message of condolence from a colleague who said that his passing leaves a tremendous hole. But what I noticed was the spelling, because instead of it being written H-O-L-E, she mistakenly wrote W-H-O-L-E, Shalem, whole. My brother did, indeed, leave a tremendous wholeness in all of our lives, personally and communally. And the only thing I can ask is this: if Aaron brought us wholeness, then it will be up to us to honor his legacy by bringing wholeness to others.
I know this is hard. I'm the last one. For more than 26 years, every time I walked into Aaron and Lisa's house, I would say every single time, multiple times during the day, "Panken, what are you doing here?" And he would say, "Still in your family, messenger." I only recently learned his first name. And truth be told, I still called him Panken, and I called all the others Baby Panken, including his sister Melinda and his children. They are just Baby Panken. It is my fault that Panken was in my family. I first met Aaron at Eisner 100 years ago when we were both much younger. He had hair, mine was a different color. Panken was the AV geeky guy. He knew how to set up the projector, how to feed the film, how to fix the mic. He cared about and knew about stuff that no one knew how to fix and no one cared about how to fix it. But he was the nicest of geeks. Aaron was a really good friend. But as any friends would attest, the real reason to be close to Aaron was to get close to the rest of his family. Beverly and Peter, you raised a mensch. Your son embraced everyone. He was insightful, loyal, loving, and your only mistake, and Beverly, I hear it's your fault. You laughed at his humor, and that just encouraged him and made it worse. You taught him how to be gentle and kind and patient. You modeled respect and honor, which are qualities that distinguished him far beyond all his academic degrees. Siblings share a sacred bond, some we just heard about. And Melinda, you were his partner in everything, in crime. You knew his secrets, his moments of doubt as a child, and his growing pains. And he was so thrilled and excited that Glenn was in your life, and your children were in your life. And Melinda, we mean this. Glenn's got a big family, and we've got a big family. And we can hold you always. And then there was Lisa. Aaron loved Lisa from afar. He looked at her a lot during camp. And I would say, not yet. Not yet. I trusted Aaron. I loved Aaron. He was genuine, honest, and sensitive. And so I made that decision. One day I called him and said, "Panken, now." And he said, "Now what?" I said, "Call Lisa now. She just broke up with someone. You've got a small window. Do it now." And he did, and I didn't know they were going to get married. I would have thought twice. And he was brave. Aaron was so smart. He was so smart to choose my Lisa. Early on, when Aaron was working on his PhD, he warned Lisa, just to cover himself, he warned Lisa that the average PhD takes 8 years. And Lisa said, "Not in this marriage." Lisa schlepped. Aaron schlepped his whole family all over the world. You've only heard a few of the places he tortured them. Morocco, Alaska, China, New Zealand, Australia, the Galapagos, Peru. And I'm just thankful he was so in love with Lisa that he never invited me and Jeff to go along. Lisa, Aaron loved every fiber of your soul. He respected you when you told him he need not do every single proof text and print it out in teeny tiny 8-point print of 8 pages to do in a 1-hour lecture. 2 texts were enough. Make it 14-point. 1 page, Aaron, just 1 page. And unfortunately, you just told him that. And so we all suffered through the other 8 pages for so many years. He valued who you were. He valued your dreams and your achievements, and you decorated his life with love and laughter. Even the rest of the messengers didn't scare him. Our parents felt truly blessed to have him in our family. He loved and nudnicked each of us, and his large extended family cajoled him into believing that we were interested in his charoset, which was so disgusting. Melinda, it was disgusting. And you need not continue that tradition. There was nothing more sacred in Aaron's life than his children. Eli and Samantha, you were the jewels that adorned your father's heart. Your father modeled a heart of wisdom. Every day was filled with humility and love for those who were most important to him. He will always be with you because you are each the best parts of him and your mother. Let us carry you for as long as you have days. And so now, I would like to ask everyone, other than Eli Panken, who has won a game of foosball against Aaron, to please rise. Oh, come on, you're lying. Anyone other than Samantha? No, stay up. Steve, keep still. Daryl, you did not beat him in foosball. Okay, this is only for foosball winners. I knew you were all lying. Okay, second category. Anyone other than Samantha who wore flannel better than Aaron? Please rise. Nice, okay? If you have suffered through his description or a slideshow of any trip and had him say to you multiple times, blue-footed booby, please rise and remain standing. He loved to say blue-footed booby. If you were at camp with Aaron, please rise. Keep standing. If you have been a student or a teacher of Aaron, please rise and keep standing. If you feel blessed for having been touched by his life, please rise. May his name be a blessing in our life forever. We remain standing for the El Malay.
El Malay Rachamim Shochein Babramim Hamitzei Minucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina Im Kiddushim Udeorim Kizorakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Harav Aharon David Ben Pesach Uvatia Shelach Laolamo Balal Rachamim Yasdireu Beseter Kenafav Leolamim Vitzror Chayim et Nishmato Adonai hu nachalato V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkafo V'nomar
Amen. God, full of compassion, Holy One on high, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence, alongside all the holy and pure whose light shines like the brilliance of the skies. To Rabbi Aaron David Panken, Harav Aharon David ben Pesach Uvatia, God of mercy, may he find refuge in the shadow of your wings. His soul be bound up in the bond of life everlasting. God is his inheritance. May he rest peacefully, and together let us say, Following this service of memorial and a private interment, Aaron's family will enter their observance of Shiva, all Shiva, and further information is available on WRT's website, wrtemple.org.
We hope you'll join us now in offering the beloved Israeli song, Uf Gazal. A mother bird watches her chicks leave the nest. She always knew the day would come when they would be parted. But now that the day has arrived, she reflects. She can't help but feel that it has come too soon. As she watches her chicks disappear into the sky, she sends them off with this blessing. Uf gozal, chatoch et hashamayim, tus le'an shebalecha. Fly, my little bird, cut across the skies and the heavens. Soar wherever your heart takes you.
הגוזלים שלי עזבו את הקן, פרסו כנפיים ועפו, ואני ציפור זקנה נשארתי בקן, מקווה מאוד שהכל יהיה בסדר.
תמיד ידעתי שיבוא היום שבו צריך להיפרד, אבל עכשיו זה ככה בא לי פתאום. אז מה הפלא שאני קצת דואג?
אוף גוזל התוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים כולך. עכשיו נשארנו לבדנו בקן, אבל אנחנו ביחד. חבתי אותי חזק, תגידי לי כן, אל תדאגי ביחד, כיף להזדקן. אוף גוזל התוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים כולך.
אני יודע שככה זה בטבע, וגם אני עזבתי כן. אבל עכשיו כשבא הרגע, אז מחניק קצת בגרון, מחניק קצת בגרון.
אוף גוזל התוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים כולך. אוף גוזל התוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים, כולך.
This time, will pallbearers please come forward? Will the congregation please rise?